Hi, my name is Max Hayes and I'm a tech analyst here at Edison, and I'm joined here today by Matt Barrie, CEO of Freelancer. Freelancer is a leading global marketplace for freelancers operating through three main business segments: Freelancer Marketplace, Escrow.com and Loadshift. The company is listed in Australia and is currently capitalised at 95 million Australian dollars. Matt, many thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
To start with, can you give an overview of the group, discussing your history and your three main businesses?
At Freelancer, we're building the Amazon of services. We've got three businesses in verticals that are needed by every business in the world, pretty much. So labour, payments and freight. The largest business is Freelancer.com. It's 67 million freelancers. We operate in 247 countries, regions and territories globally. Any job you can possibly think of, you get done on Freelancer, whether it's something as simple for $10, like design for me a logo, or as large as $10 million, and that's the current largest active project, which is for gene editing in the central nervous system of humans with National Institute of Health and NASA. We're about 2,700 different skill areas. Literally any sort of work you can think of, you can get done, whether it's online jobs or offline jobs. And it's quite simple. You just post a project, people bid from around the world on the job, and you get work done disruptively cheap compared to how you do it in traditional forms. NASA's published a white paper where you can save up between 80 and 99%, depending on the type of work. And that business scales all the way from consumer right up to enterprise, and we're doing some pretty crazy things with global companies like Deloitte and so forth. Escrow.com is a payments business. We do about $1 billion a year of payment volume through it. You can think of it like PayPal, but the difference is we deal with expensive or complicated payments. So if you want to buy and sell a boat, car, airplane, jewelry, gemstones, diamonds, house, do M&A of a business, song royalties, jet parts, import shipping containers from overseas, we're the payment system for that. There's a lot of payment systems in the world. You hear about them every day, whether it's PayPal, Zelle, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, etc. But all those payment systems that you hear about out there today are all for microtransactions. And by value, all of those payment systems are built on top of cards, MasterCard, Visa, debit or credit. And the entire volume of all those digital payment methods in the US is only 3% by value of card volume. And of all the card volume in the US, that's only 8% of domestic payment volume in the US. So it's 3% of 8%. We deal with large value payments. So payments above a few $1,000s that don't work on a credit card, and you go to $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, we're basically the world's largest online escrow company that handles those payments. And quite simply, we hold the money until the payment goes through. And then we've got a freight division, which is called Loadshift. This at the moment is only operating in Australia, but it's Australia's largest sort of heavy haulage freight marketplace. And we play in the areas of big ugly freight. So machinery, construction, industrial, mining and so forth. We do movements for Newcrest Gold Mine, Cadia. We move grain, coal, demountable mining camps, a lot of fixed and stationary machinery, cranes and so forth. So the bigger and the uglier it is, the more it's our sweet spot. And the interesting thing about that business is the actual technical stack is exactly the same as Freelancer, because the whole nature of the business, whether you post a job or post a load, people bid on the job, people bid on the load, you hold the payment until the service is delivered, you release it, then you collect feedback, etc. It's all the same thing. So we've basically got the technical stack for free with the Loadshift business. And that business today does about 75 to 80,000 loads a year through it. The average load size is about $4,000. So there's about $300 million worth of freight that goes to that business, and we're monetizing it like Freelancer now in a marketplace model. So labour, payments, freight.
No, really interesting. And focusing more on your core marketplace platform, could you give me a bit of an overview of the market landscape and the growth opportunities that you've identified? That's
right. So we're the largest in the world in terms of number of users. So 67 million users from 247 countries, regions and territories globally. Anywhere there's electricity and there's internet, we have people. So we've got by some margin the largest workforce, and that gives us quite a number of opportunities actually. Just like Amazon Web Services in terms of compute power has got a very large and wide offering in terms of compute devices. It allows us to also provide uniquely to the needs of multinationals, because we've got people everywhere, and multinationals are by definition multinational. So we can provide with one platform labour in a very unified way no matter where you need it for whatever job, anytime and so forth. In terms of the opportunities, in terms of growth with the Freelancer marketplace, there's a lot of things that we're doing around the field of personalization. We're using a lot of sort of generative AI in order to do that, to really customize the experience for people wanting to get work done. We've got quite a large growth in collaborative tools. Going from sort of the traditional, I get you to do a job for me in a sort of a one-on-one sort of relationship, to instead building teams online and being able to work on large-scale projects with groups of people. And then on the enterprise division, we're really unlocking large latent demand inside enterprises to match it in a very consumable way through our enterprise offering with the supply that we have of labour. So we've built a product called InSource, which has come through many years of working with Deloitte, where for Deloitte, we basically power the US consulting in terms of access to talent. There's 45,000 consultants on the platform, and they can either hire other Deloitte consultants to get work done or go to a very highly curated, vetted talent cloud. And we've kind of taken that product, and we've got it now, and we've opened up to everyone. So we do some pretty crazy things there for quite a number of sort of Fortune 500 equivalent organizations around the world.
No, really nice. And in 2015, you acquired your online payments platform, escrow.com. How have you integrated that into the business model, and what do you see as the main growth catalyst for the division? So
that powers our payments in some jurisdictions like California, where increasingly the regulators are looking at marketplaces and they're viewing them as quasi-payment systems, because money comes in from the buyer, money goes out to the seller. So marketplaces are increasingly getting regulated, particularly in Europe, in certain jurisdictions in the US, in Australia, and so forth. So increasingly, escrow will be powering more and more of the business of Freelancer. But independently, it's a pretty phenomenal business. It effectively has a way like a regulatory monopoly in online escrow payments, simply because it's incredibly difficult to get licensed in the areas of money transmission. It takes about 5 to 7 years in each jurisdiction. In the US, escrow is something special again, because it deals with very high value payments, and you're holding those payments for the provision of a service. So it's licensed, it's bonded, it's audited, and so forth. That business we've actually completed a full US licensing program now. So we're licensed in every state in the US where licensing is required. We're also licensed in Canada, and we're licensed in Australia, and our UK license is pending. It's been a number of years, but hopefully in the final yards for that. In terms of the growth opportunities for the business, about 95% of the volume today that goes through escrow.com is transactional based. So for example, if I want to buy a car online, I can go set up the transaction on escrow, and then I can have the car shipped to me, and I know the car is going to be exactly as the photos and the logbooks and so forth say it is going to be, because the money's not released until I actually get the merchandise in my hands. Likewise, if I'm bringing shipping containers from overseas, or whatever it may be, or buying a domain name online, or whatever it is. What we're doing is we're building now a checkout solution. So you can basically integrate it into platforms and merchants that want to now have the ability to take a payment for high value payments. Traditionally, you go to car marketplaces, for example, and you can browse the cars, but you can't actually purchase the car. You get given a phone number. You've then got to call up the seller, go inspect the car in person, and then figure out how to arrange payment. Retail, e-commerce as a percentage of retail sales in the US is about 11%, and it will never get to 30, 40, 50% unless it gets into large value payments. And so what we are effectively doing with the checkout solution is we're taking traditional classified sites and we're turning them into marketplaces. And that does a number of things. The first thing it does is you now know if you run that car classified site that the car is sold. At the moment, they've got no idea if the car is sold. They're giving out the phone numbers to buyers. The buyers are ringing up. They don't even have any information on the buyer. They don't know the person's name. They don't know if the car is sold. They don't know, and it's providing a terrible experience. On top of that, by integrating payments, you can now collect feedback on the buyer and the seller. So you know who's reputable and you know who's not reputable. You also can increase the liquidity of the marketplace, because now, instead of me having to fly to physically secure the asset, whatever it may be, I can now trust the fact that the asset will be shipped to me in the condition that it's been expressed that it's in, because the money doesn't get released until I actually get physical possession of that particular item. And so with that checkout solution, we've been successful in terms of being integrated into a number of sort of marquee locations. We're the only payment method for eBay Motors in the US. So if you want to buy a car on eBay, the only option is to use escrow.com unless you want to go the old school way of trying to organize cash and payments separately. We're one of the payment methods for eBay watches. So, if you want to buy a low-end watch, you can pay by credit card, and some merchants are happy to accept that. But if you want to buy a $200,000 Rolex, your credit cards are going to stop working. The merchant's going to be a bit reluctant to take it in terms of chargeback risk. Chargebacks with credit cards are a terrible experience for anyone who's gone through that. You basically have to download a form. You've got to fill it out. It's a 6 to 8 weeks sort of claim on an insurance program that the platform runs. Was it as described? Is it an insurable area? Is it within the thresholds? Did you do everything properly? With escrow.com, we simply just hold the money. So you receive the merchandise like the Rolex in your hands. You get to inspect it within an inspection period. That might be 3 or 7 days. You can set it to whatever you like as part of the transaction. And you can return that watch for any reason whatsoever within the inspection period. After that, of course, the transaction goes through. So it provides peace of mind for the buyer, and it also provides peace of mind for the seller because they don't suffer from potential reversals which credit cards have with them. So by building that checkout solution, we're going to go into a whole range of effectively marketplaces that are actually classified sites, enabling them for the next generation by taking a payment. And there's also quite interesting revenue streams that those platforms can now adopt. If you sell the car, you can now upsell financing at the same time, or insurance, or transport, or snow tires, or whatever it may be. So really the future for the growth for escrow is getting that checkout solution in there into a bunch of different merchants. And we're in a range of different industries now where we've gone into acquire.com, so you can buy whole businesses and check out and pay online. We're in a bunch of oil well marketplaces now, so you can buy and sell oil wells online. This is something, a 100-year-old business that you never thought would go fully digital, and now it is, thanks to escrow. And there's some pretty exciting things coming. But we'll go into a range of shopping carts, and we'll go to a range of payment aggregators as well pretty soon.
Really interesting. And you also acquired the freight logistics platforms, Channel 40 in 2018, and then later you acquired LoadShift in 2021. Can you talk about the motivations behind those acquisitions and your expectations moving forward?
Sure. I mean, this is a phenomenal business, and it's growing in leaps and bounds. As I said before, the technology piece is very similar to Freelancer. So the whole flow of posting a project, bidding on the job, paying for the job, etc., it's identical between Freelancer. And in fact, we just used the Freelancer Enterprise stack, the same stack that we use for Deloitte, which is robust and enterprise grade for LoadShift. We originally bought an app called Channel 40 years ago. That app was basically Uber for freight. We got some expertise in the space. And then we bought the largest bulletin board for freight in the country, which is called LoadShift. We merged the two together, and ultimately now it's just running on the Freelancer code base, and it's called LoadShift. We have a huge amount of demand coming into that business. In fact, we're only monetizing a small amount of it at this point in time. There's about $300 to $350 million worth of freight that's being posted on the platform. And what we've been doing since the full merger into the Freelancer stack is changing to the same business model as Freelancer, which is basically 3% for the shipper and 10% for the actual driver in terms of when the load is awarded, accepted, and moved. And we're very rapidly monetizing that $300 million worth of freight that's going through. And in the next 12 months, this business is going to knock the lights out. It's doing extremely well. And in terms of synergies, anything that's a physical product that sells via escrow needs to be moved. So you buy some machinery, or you buy a car, or you buy a boat, it needs to be moved. And the margins on freight are significantly higher than for payments. So there's a lot of synergies with Freelancer with the same code base, and there's synergies with escrow in terms of anything that's purchased with escrow that's a physical product needs to be moved after that.
It sounds very promising. I guess moving more to your financials, could you talk about your FY22 results and I guess what your expectations are and key objectives are for FY23 and beyond? Sure.
Well, FY22, our gross payment volume through the group combined was about 1.13 billion Australian dollars. It was down 10% coming out of sort of that reverse COVID trade where kind of everyone was out wanting to go on holiday rather than actually work online and build businesses. But we do think that in the second half of this year, this is going to really strongly grow. And in fact, we've had a number of very positive results on the Freelancer platform with the personalization, the collaborative tools as well that I think are going to be quite good for growth. In terms of revenue, the group did 55.7 million in revenue, which is effectively flat year on year, is down about 3%. Again, we think that this year is going to be a pretty good year for us. The businesses are all kind of firing. We've got them all to operating profitability this year independently, and now it's really just heads down, focusing on the numbers, focusing on the growth. And we do a lot of things in this business. It's pretty crazy. You come to work at Freelancer, and on one hand, you're kind of integrating sort of GPT-4 and AI into the platform to really hyper-personalized projects. On the other hand, you're then moving we moved the largest boat by land in the Southern Hemisphere, which is the Pride of the Murray. It's a giant sort of paddle steamer, which required a police escort and 5 permits and bring down 5 power lines, etc. And then when Facebook rebranded to Meta, they bought their domain name and they bought all the trademarks through escrow.com. So it's quite a large number of things we do in the business, and it really is trying to be the sort of next Amazon of services. And the service space is actually bigger than the product space, and in the product space, some of the largest companies in the world by market capitalization are global marketplaces of products, whether it's Amazon, Alibaba, etc. So it's going to happen in services, and we're giving it a good shot.
Fantastic, and it seems like very exciting times ahead for Freelancer. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me today, Matt.
Great, thanks for having me.